which is blessed be. This is White Raven over here. Today's Monday, so happy Magic Monday to all of you guys. Super excited to be here today because this is a video that has been on schedule for a couple of weeks now, and I hate that I'm a little bit late with it because I have so much to say about this that we're going to talk about today. Today I'm going to be doing the book review of this amazing book I already talked to you guys about. Mexican Sorcery, a practical guide to Brujeria de Rancho. Love it. Let me show you the book. This is the book right here. This is by the author Laura Davila, which is known in Instagram as Daphne la Hechicera. Talked to her this morning. I actually communicated with her this morning. She's amazing. She is so friendly, down to earth, and I am so excited to be able, and I'm honored to be able to review this book. Let me clear something out, which is, if I share a book here with you, it's because I really like it. I already read it, digested it, and fell in love with it. This book is that one book. Before I go ahead with the video, I want to show you something. Hopefully it does not fall. I got this for my birthday. Look at this, this is the moon. The brand of this globes is called Mova, and these things rotate on their own. This is a 100% replica of the moon. They also have different planets. I am so in love with my moon. You guys have no idea. So I wanted to share this with you. Whew, that's it. Let's put her on the side. She's like so pretty. I just can't. I have my own moon. I have my own moon. So anyways, let's start with this book. Look at this cover. I mean, this cover says it all. You have corn in the side, you have scissors over here, you have a crow over here, you have a red ribbon over here. There's symbolism everywhere in here, witches. Symbolism. I love it. And this book, My Beautiful Witches, is already a #1 bestseller in Amazon. This book just came out on my birthday, February 1st. Not even 2 weeks ago. And it's already #1 bestseller. It deserves it. This book has created a precedent. There is no other book like this one, and I am super excited to share this review with you. I hope you get as excited about this book as I am to share this review with you. This book was a total surprise for me. I was expecting another cutesy, okay book about Mexican brujeria. I mean, we already discussed a great book, which was American Brujeria by J. Allen Cross. We also discussed the book that moved my heart from La Santísima Muerte a couple of months ago. And I was expecting this book to be sort of like your classic folkloric magic from rural areas in Mexico. Oh boy, was I surprised. This book slapped me in the face with wickedness. I am so excited to have this book. I was really not expecting what's inside these pages. This book has superb information. It has rituals, it has spells, it has brutal hexes, and wicked folk stories and legends. Mexican Sorcery, a practical guide to Brujeria de Rancho, is a journey through the teachings, the methods, the beliefs of this amazing, intricate magical system. Born from suffering, from struggle, born from the necessity of justice in the heart of the Mexican ranchos. And it is in the most practical way that the author delivered her teachings, making this book impossible, which is to put down. As I say, and in my words, this book is absolutely delicious. This is a book, as you can tell, I put a lot of notes in here. It's bendy. It's really comfortable to read. It has really good fonts. I have all my markings in here. It has about 200 pages and so, and it's about 7 hours in Audible. You finish this in one day because you can't not put it down. It's so interesting and it's so smart. So let's talk about the author of this book, Laura Davila. She was born and raised in Mexico, and she is a 5th generation Mexican rancho witch. So she was born into this world. And she speaks in her book about the influence that her grandparents, particularly grandmas, had in her life. She speaks about spending the first 7 years of her life in a big rancho, very close to the border with the United States in Rio Bravo. That is in Tamaulipas in Mexico. And she states that living in that rancho those 7 years is the reason why she is now a rancho bruja. Laura has knowledge on botanicals and the natural world, and she learned this magic on her grandmother's knees. She's been living in the United States and now since 2010, and she is now a rancho witch here in the US. She works also as a tarot reader, and she has a really interesting job as a flower essence practitioner. She is in Instagram. You can find her in Instagram under the name Daphne la Hechicera. So go say hi and join her coven. This book is composed of 10 chapters. You're going to also have an introduction, an appendix, a glossary, and last, a bibliography. So you can have extra information in there so you can do your own research. So now I'm going to share with you a little glimpse of each chapter so you at least get an idea of how this book is constructed. In the introduction, the author is going to go in a little bit more of a personal level, sharing with you her struggles of becoming a rancho witch. Sometimes when we grow up having this in a silver platter, the way she puts it, we do not appreciate what we are learning and what we're having. And sometimes circumstances in life make you realize that you have to do what you have to do and what you were born to do. Now, chapter number 1, Brujeria de Rancho. In this chapter, we're going to see a glimpse of what circumstances created the practice of Brujeria de Rancho. What circumstances make a bruja de rancho? What do they do? What have been their place in history, in Mexican history, throughout generations? Laura Davila in this chapter defines Brujeria de Rancho as a practice that combines the sacred, the unhallowed, the sacrilegious, the heretical, and the macabre. And this is something that you're going to see throughout the book. And in this chapter, there is also a spiritual and historical reference to the corn that I really appreciated and I really enjoy. And then this chapter is going to end with guidelines, like basic guidelines that you must follow if you practice Brujeria de Rancho. Some examples of these guidelines are: do not work with what you don't know. And she gives an example of somebody giving tequila to Pancho Villa as an offering. And this person did not know that Pancho Villa did not drink. So needless to say, that offering did not go very well. So it's very important, if you're going to be working with some of the spirits of Brujeria de Rancho, you know who are you working with. You also need to know that some spirits are going to take more work than others, and some spirits are just plainly and simply not going to want to work with you. You must do your work, which is something that I tell you all the time. You also need to be smart to discern, etc., etc. If you want to know the whole list, you have to read the book. And then we're going to have chapter number 2, which is the Bruja's Kitchen. You know, this is where all the magic happened. This is where grandma is going to be with granddaughter, and they're going to be concocting some food and maybe talking about some magic. Also, there's some Aztec deities directly linked to the kitchen. The author is also going to share with you some of the basic utensils that you are going to need when you practice Brujeria de Rancho. She's going to touch on herbs. There's 2 really nice chants to awaken rue and rosemary. Those are 2 chants that I'm definitely going to use. Since we're talking about things from the kitchen, she's also going to tell you some of the main ingredients and most of the spells in Brujeria de Rancho. So you're going to learn about chocolate, and there's a lot of tea behind chocolate. Let me tell you, she's going to go deep in the history of chocolate. Do you know that back in Europe, decent women were not supposed to be eating chocolates? And that you know that conquistadors were completely afraid of chocolates because they thought it was a way for them to be jinx? She's also going to talk about piloncillo. What is that? She's going to talk to you about the different kinds of chiles that you can use for your magic. What are each chile for? Another thing that she's going to touch in this chapter that I really, really like is salaciones. It's just to salt someone. And she's also going to talk to you about the magic of tears. Now, second chapter, this is when you're going to start getting your spells, because this book is plagued with spells. Number 3, the symbols and tools of traditions. So over here, she's going to tell you a little bit about the basics and the elemental tools of the trade. So she's going to talk to you about the scissors. What are they for? What do they represent? And also mecate, which is a jute cord. And she's going to mention so many other ones. Also in this chapter, there are 2 stories. They're like legend and folklore, and they're like scary, and they are so good. You're going to have in this particular chapter, the Huasteca witch, and then you're going to have The Sorceress of La Petaca. When you're reading this book, you want to have your computer next to you, your phone next to you, so you can see things. When she's putting things over here that you don't know what they are all about, you go in your phone and you check. You know, I have a VR, and I even went to the cities where she was born with my VR because I needed to see. I wanted to be so inside this book when I was reading this book because it's so good. Of course, you're going to have a lot of spells in chapter 3. And then in chapter 4, we're going to talk about amulets and talisman, the difference between one and the other, how to awaken them, what to have, what do you need. She's going to give you some of the examples of the basic talismans and amulets that are used in Brujeria de Rancho, like azabache, which is jet. I have talked to you about that. Also, the lucky elephant. Also, we're going to talk about the Nazar eye, which is that evil eye, blue, cobalt blue eye, you know, to protect yourself, the hamsa hand. And my very favorite, the fixed horseshoe of San Martin of Tours. And I'm going to put a picture of it over here so you can see it. And I love that one. And if you do have a business, that is the one horseshoe that you want to have in your business. And I learned this with this book. I just want to let you know. Chapter 5 is going to be all about working with saints. She's going to talk about different saints and what they're good for. And I want to make a stop over here, and I want to make sure that you understand that Brujeria de Rancho is directly linked to Catholicism. All right, so if this is something that is uncomfortable for you, then this is not the witchcraft for you. This is something that you're not going to comprehend. But having said that, let me tell you this. Independently of the way you feel about church, I tell you there's a lot of magic in Christianity. You can use it to your benefit. Nobody's telling you that you are condoning or excusing or accepting anything that Christianity has done, all the barbaric things that Christianity has done throughout history. I am telling you that you can utilize the Bible and so many things from the church in order to empower your magic. You will do a disservice to your magic if you at least don't try to comprehend why some witches use Christianity for their magic. So let's proceed with this chapter. You're going to have a whole list of saints and what they can do for you. And along with that, you're going to have a lot of different really good spells and brutally wicked spells that you can do using the help of all the saints. Remember, which is that if you're going to use any of the saints, you must know who they are and how to properly work with any of them. Chapter 6 are going to be about ensalmos and remedios or remedy. And this is all about healing, about cleansing. She's going to give you recipes, her own recipes, and she's going to tell you what she does with these recipes. Along with that, she also is going to teach you some really wicked magic with soaps, magical soaps. You can do so much with soaps. Love this chapter, learn a lot, and I'm going to be implementing some of the things that she taught me here in my own particular magic because I found this to be so freaking bright. Chapter 7, we're going to be talking about limpias and home cleansings. We already know, even if many of us don't speak Spanish in this channel, you already know what limpias are. This is really important, especially the home cleansing part. About a month ago, I was telling you guys, and I share a video with you guys because we were talking about foot track magic. And what I said with foot track magic is that you pick up magical workings against you through your feet and you bring that home. So in this chapter, we are going to address that, and she is going to share with you how to clean them. She also is going to give you a great recipe just in case you have carpets in your house, because let's face it, here in the United States, about 90% of houses have carpets in their room, at least, for example. She's going to teach you what to do if you also have carpets. Another thing that I really appreciate that I'm going to be doing myself very, very soon, she shared with us spells on how to charge your doormat and also your door, but particularly your doormat. I was very excited with this spell, and this is something that I'm definitely going to implement and I'm going to use right away in my magic. I mean, you're going to have so many clever things in this book, witches, and this is I love it. I love it. So that is going to be chapter number 7. Chapter 8, and we're getting to some of my favorite chapters in this book. La Iglesia y el Campo Santo. The church and the graveyard, which is, and in the words of the author, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. Rancho witches, they use the church They go to church. Everything is about balance, witches. And the rancho brujeria is in total secrecy. So why would a witch go to church? Why? Well, this chapter is going to tell you. And how you can implement things from church into your magic, because that's the whole point. You're going to learn about sacramentals. What is an amalt? How does baptism relate to magic? She's going to talk to you about the Requiem Mass. And after she talks about church, she's also going to address the cemetery, El Camposanto. There is something that I read in the book in this particular chapter that I found very beautiful. To heal or to kill is the dual energy on the ground of the cemetery. What risk do you take when you go to the cemetery? What is the protocol when you go into the cemetery? How do you collect cemetery dirt? What is burial magic? And last witches, this chapter has brutal hexes. Nasty, wicked hexes that I love. Great chapter. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about the Pact. The reality is, witches, that there are witches out there that do make a pact with Satan. They do make a pact with the devil for whatever reasons it is. Brujeria de Rancho is no different. And the truth is, and this is why the author puts this chapter in this book. So you know that that is something that does happen. If you want to know how they do it and when they do it, you have to read the book. Does it mean that every witch does this? No. Does it mean that they do it for bad reasons? Listen, the devil for you is probably very different for the devil for somebody else. We have good friends that are Satanists, and there are definitely not bad people. So everything is in the eye of the beholder, and the map of the world is different from everybody. So there's no judgment over here. I am actually 100% fascinated. Now, in this chapter, witches, we're going to have a few stories. Like, for example, the story of El Chamuco, the devil in the ranch. There's a great, interesting story in this particular chapter of how people used to go to church, not to worship Saint Michael the Archangel, but to ask for help to the little devil under the feet of Saint Michael. I invite for you to read this book. I mean, you have to read this book if you want to know about it. It was pretty interesting and it made a lot of sense to me. She also is going to speak about El Justo Juez Negro, and she also is going to talk to you about the Black Charro. El Charro Negro. I am fascinated by all these characters. They're dark, they're more sinister, but they play a very big role in magic, witches. And when you read this book, everything makes sense to you. I know this may sound a little bit shocking, but the book will make sense to you once you read it. It's so interesting. You're going to be so excited to read all this. The end of this chapter, you're going to have really super cool recipes for powders, and I can't wait to start making them. So chapter 10 is a short chapter, and probably the chapter that in the beginning gave me a little bit of a hard time. And the title of this chapter is Lent for Mexican Witches. So we're talking about very special days in the Christian church, and especially in the Catholic church, that are so related to Jesus, his death, and whatnot. And so in the beginning of this chapter, I was like, do I really need to read this chapter? Is this really important to me? Is this something I need to know? And boy, oh boy, of course, I was so surprised again. I learned a couple of things from that chapter that I need to share with you. For example, the Friday from 3 p.m. all the way to Sunday, that's a great time for you to do hexes, because you know what? All the dark energy is rampant, and they will probably willingly take your magic and do your dirty deed for you. So that's something that I learned. Also, how important is the holy water from churches on that time. The Sunday palm, that is something that I actually have, and I actually knew because in one of Judica Illy's book, there's a recipe that you need to have Sunday palm to make this recipe. I don't remember the recipe now, but I know there's a really important recipe that you do with Sunday palm powder. You also are going to learn how to work with the good thief, you know, that died with Jesus. You can do spell with his assistance. And who knew? Now you do. And you can use that energy in order to do spells to find things that have been lost. For example, And also in this chapter, they talk about the burning of a Judas. So you can create your own Judas. She tells you how to do the whole ritual. And it's not a pretty spell, which is you're going to be burning and hanging Judas. So this is probably when you want to get even with somebody really truly evil, or you need to get rid of somebody really truly evil in your life. This is a good ritual. And imagine the power behind that day, you performing that spell that is so symbolic. I mean, which is, we need to be open minded, because you're going to find so much magic in the most incredible places. And this is something that this book is going to share with you. Now, after all these chapters, the author is going to finish with an appendix. She's going to leave some correspondences, just in case you want to use correspondences. You do not have to use any type of correspondences when you are doing Brujeria de Rancho. You really don't. But if you're interested and if you want to add some extra power into your spells, you're going to have in that appendix phases of the moon, the days, the colors, even the hours of the day. I appreciate that she has a glossary in there with very helpful definitions. And of course, she's going to end with the bibliography. So what is my conclusion on this book, which is I love it. I freaking love it. Laura Davila has composed a fantastic book. And without a doubt, which is this book has created a precedent, because there is no other book. You're not going to find anywhere another book like this one. This is the first of its kind. I have barely touched the surface on this book on this review here today. This book is loaded not only with vast information about Brujeria de Rancho, but also with historical facts about colonialism, the Inquisition, pre-Hispanic sorcery, the Aztecs, and so many things that will paint a foundation for you. While reading this book, you're going to be able to see what the writer is seeing, and it will make perfect sense to you. The reason why this magic is done the way that it is done, which is this book is raw, this book is blunt, and at times controversial, but is very honest and coming from a very loyal and traditional stance. This is the right hand and the left hand, which is unapologetic. Which is, you don't get closer to this magic than this. I'm very confident that this book is going to enhance your knowledge and is going to ignite and inspire you to do different things and experiment with your magic. Regardless if you're Mexican or not, regardless if you live in a rancho or if you live in the city, and regardless if you will ever practice this magic or not, you are going to acquire knowledge. I recommend this book, which is 100%. This book is 10 out of 10. 2 thumbs up. I'm going to finish this review with something that she told me this morning, because we were interacting and chatting. I was asking her some questions for this review. We're speaking in Spanish, but she was telling me, I did not invent all this. I only dusted it and I rescue it. And here is for you, which is Mexican Sorcery. A practical guide to Brujeria de Rancho by the amazing Laura Davila. Which is, do yourself a favor and get yourself this book. You will enjoy it greatly. And that's it, which is, thank you so very much for being here with me yet another Monday. I appreciate you guys so much. I enjoyed this book so much. I hope you enjoy it too. I hope it teaches you a lot and ignites your imagination. Put fire in your butt, which is, that's the basic purpose of all this. Visit me in my social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And remember to check out my beautiful website, whiteravenandwitcheslayer.com. I have a lot of new beautiful things for you. If you have any questions about magic, please email me at layerofthewitch@yahoo.com. And until next Monday, witches, please remember to stay very smart. Knowledge is power, witches. But above all, with all this knowledge, always stay wicked. Bye.